Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Colourbox's what's kind of considered their second album. Colourbox had an EP in 19, well, I should say, I guess it's more of a mini album in like 1983. But first they got everybody's attention with this awesome 12-inch right here, called Breakdown, and then the B-side was called Tarantula. And this kind of put them on the map for me. I didn't hear this till early '90s, but it's just especially the breakdown track, the second version, is just an awesome, great track to play in a club. It works in like dance. It's kind of got a high energy dance feel to it. It's got an industrial feel. It'll fit into like an electro set. It'll fit into really kind of even a dub set or really any kind of '80s dance track. It's just such a great track to play out, and I really enjoy playing it out when I get the chance. But then they had a mini album, the year after this in 1983. There's only 4 tracks on that one, so I figured I was kind of wasn't sure. It's actually got the same title. They're both called Colourbox, self-titled. And I figured I'd start with reviewing the second album because the first album is only 4 songs. So, yeah, that's going to be the review for today for the Colourbox. So, Colourbox was a brother combo, Martin and Stephen Young. And they went on to, after Colourbox kind of went away in 1986, you may know they formed Mars and had the big hit, probably the biggest dance track that year in 1987 with Pump Up the Volume, and then later on it was released for the soundtrack. And unfortunately the clearance issues and copyright issues, and when a dance track gets that big, it can put a lot of stress on the copyrights and things like that, and unfortunately it kind of broke up the band, and that's too bad. But that's what they were mostly known for. But I really think the creativity in Colourbox is highly underrated, and it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't know them. Even people that really follow 4AD records with Mortal Coil and Cocteau Twins and Dead Can Dance and stuff. A lot of them they don't even know about Colourbox, and it's kind of a shame because even though they only had 2 albums and a handful of singles, they were very unique. It's almost hard to compare them to somebody because they incorporate so many styles of music in their repertoire. They have dance music, they have soul influences, they have reggae influences, they have hip hop influences. They even have blue-eyed soul and even classic R&B, dub, and even industrial. They're just kind of like all over the place, and then it's funny because you try to compare them to something. That's sometimes you do that when you have have kind of a historical angle on certain music and how revolutionary they were and how groundbreaking they were, and when you kind of analyze that, like I like to do because I like to look at things in a historical perspective. You start to compare certain styles to other bands, and it's funny because they have so many different styles and influences. You can sort of compare one of them to something else, but then they switch it up and do another style, and you're just like, are you going to compare them to that? So it's like a conglomerate of all these different unique styles, and that's what was great about the 1980s music. I think also in a way again, I'm going to compare them to a lot of people, but they used a lot of, a good amount of sampling in their dance records, kind of a chop up style as well. Sometimes with the beat editing, like breakdown is a great example. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Severed Heads, a little bit with the kind of all over the place dance music and just and then the rawness of it too. For the good and the bad, because sometimes like some samples or sounds in the mix are kind of a little bit I would say out of whack, but sometimes the volumes are a little bit loud on certain sounds and stuff like that because it's just very raw. And Rico Koenig engineered this, and he obviously did a lot of work with like Depeche Mode and a lot of bands, and it's a little surprising that he engineered this, but that's because he's really talented, and so I'm thinking that it was a little bit more of a band decision to make some of the sounds, so much different in the mix because I wouldn't think that a seasoned engineer like Rico Koenig, even in 1985, would have sort of made it sound like this. But maybe he didn't do the mix down; he just engineered it. Maybe he didn't really do the levels. And then also, but I will say the one of the drawbacks of the album, it just the sound is, and sometimes that's dance music, but it's just very thin. It's almost like it almost sounds like it's kind of like a tunnel. Like it's like you can't hear any hi hats in here. Like there's no like, I mean it's the drums are very drum machine sound. So which is fine and all. So they're not all that powerful, but you just it sounds like everything's kind of through a tunnel, and you really can't hear many of the high cymbals or any of the high frequencies at all. It really sounds very, very thin, and it's not a drawback for the album. It's just me saying that and keeping that in perspective. But again, they sort of sampled a lot of stuff into dance music and really kind of have like a just go get it kind of attitude with their producing, and I find that really unique and cool for the time. It's just this album is a great example. It's just all over the place with different styles, like I was saying earlier. It's a mixed bag for sure. There's a lot of different music on it. The sound is there's even some post punk in here, like just Give 'Em Whiskey, that track kind of sampled into dance music. The guitar riff and everything sounds very post punk. My favorite songs on here are probably, it's tough, but probably Arena and Suspicion I really like, and Say You. And then as far as all the dance songs, I really like Give 'Em Whiskey and Punch. Those are probably my favorite of the dance songs. When I go into the tracks, Sleepwalker there's 10 tracks. The Sleepwalker is a nice piano intro. Again, if you heard this intro and then you hear the rest of the album, there's just so much different music on here. This is a really nice piano kind of. It's almost could fit on like an ambient album or something like that. It's only 2.5 minutes long, 2 minutes and 15 seconds, but it's really nice sounding. It's really, really good. I give it 2.5 stars. Give 'Em Whiskey, I give it 2 3/4 stars. The drums are kind of thin. It's an interesting mix of dance music and sort of like I was saying earlier, a little bit of post punk sound. I give it 2 3/4. Say You is really interesting. It's kind of a dub slash reggae. The two brothers in here, the Young brothers, they got a new singer for this album, and her name was Loretta Graham, and she has a really nice kind of soulful voice, but it works well over dance music and pop music. So it's just really unfortunate that they didn't do more music after this because it just seems like a really nice combination, and I could see like another album really fine tuning everything and really taking it to another level. It's kind of unfortunate that they didn't again do another album. But yeah, Say You is really nice track, 3 stars. My least favorite is actually a single, and that's track number 4, The Moon Is Blue. It's kind of a soulful track. Some people might like this, but for me, it's not what I look for in it's not my favorite style. Even though I don't mind soul music, it's kind of a little bit slow and kind of has an R&B, and it's just kind of I don't know. I think it's kind of a little lackluster, but ideally it's not what I look for in Colourbox. For Colourbox, I look for a mix of different styles and a little bit more on the dance music or at least dub music. You know, so it's not my ideal song, but um, I give it 1.5 stars. Inside Informer. It's not bad. It's the perhaps the chorus is a bit too poppy. Um, I think it's a good track. I got it 2 stars, but it's a little lackluster for theirs. I mean, compared to the rest of the album, for sure. Punch, track number 6, I gave 3 stars. It reminds me of Severed Heads a lot. It's a fun kind of dance track that's kind of all over the place, and the vocals are really interesting on it as well. 7 is a Suspicion is a soulful track, and it is kind of R&B, but this one's a lot better. In fact, it's actually have it tied for my favorite song on the album, 3.25 stars. It's a really nice track. It's really catchy. It's smoother, really nice. Track number 8 is kind of a shorter track. It's 2 minutes and 26 seconds. I give it 2.5 stars. It's a good dance song. Um, Number 9 is "You Keep Me Hanging On," which is, of course, the Supremes uh, original song from 1966, which was a number 1 hit, and also, of course, Kim Wilde used it a couple years after this and also took it to number 1. It's one of the only tracks that went to number. It's one of only a handful of tracks that went to number 1 by 2 separate artists. Just coincidentally, I was reading that. But this version is good. It's not necessarily a song I ideally like. I mean, it's the Supremes version. It's a good '60s song. Um, I don't know if it's a good cover for what it is, but I don't necessarily love the song in general. But I give it 2 stars. It's solid. I mean, it's interesting for sure. I suppose in some strange way it kind of works into the album pretty well because it's just all over the place. But ideally, it's not my style of what I would want to hear from Colourbox. But it's very accurate cover song, and it's verging on 5.5 minutes, so it's a long track too. And then Arena, I think, is one of the most interesting tracks on the album. In an album full of interesting tracks, which is saying a lot. I give it 3.25 stars. I think it's one of the nicer productions. I really like the keyboard sounds and the hook of the song, and even though the drums are a little bit too loud, like the snare's really loud on this one, and this one has a nice, good soul sound as well. Um, Interesting track, really interesting track. Overall, I gave the album it's 25.75 stars divided by 10 tracks, so it's a 2.57 stars per song average, and that pretty much correlates to about a 60 and 61, and I gave it a 62 out of 100. I think it's on the low side of being a good album. I think if you take out the 2 tracks that I don't like, maybe include some other stuff, I think you're getting a little closer to the '70s. It doesn't really have this type of level dance track on there, and so I feel like I'm missing that. But in a way, I'm kind of surprised by the catchiness of some of the soul tracks. I mean, Suspicion and Arena are not dance tracks for the most part, and they're the best tracks on here. So, just shows you how talented Colourbox were. You know, like I was, I don't have this particular album. I just have this single, and I've heard a couple songs off this in the past, but I was really surprised that the songs I like most would be the kind of more ballad ones, not really ballad ones, but more R&B ones with Loretta singing on it. So it just shows you how talented they were, and just kind of a shame that they didn't do another album. But yeah, really good album. I enjoy this album. You can get a lot of, I don't know if this is really an album that you play a lot all the way through, but if you're a DJ like me, like taking off finding certain gems, like like there's a lot of tracks in here that you could play at a lot of different places, whether it be a lounge or a dance club or background music or industrial or pop, or there's just all kinds of different. Even the reggae too. The dub track is interesting. Um, it just has a lot of different tracks that you can play in a lot of different kind of environments, and I think everybody will kind of find something in this album that they like. It's just, especially if you like '80s music. I don't know how anybody wouldn't find something on here that they like. But it is very raw sounding for the time. Even for 1985, it's very raw. Maybe not so much on the dance side. I have something like Mantronics up there, which, in a way, there's a little bit of Mantronics on here in a strange way. In 1985, I could see that. Severed Heads, like I said. Cabaret Voltaire, a little bit of Cabaret Voltaire reminds me of Colourbox in a way. Maybe not as minimal, but just some really interesting dance music. Just kind of it kind of incorporates so many different genres. Really, really unique album and really unique band. But yeah, 62 out of 100. Just curious if you have any thoughts on Colourbox. This might be my only review on Colourbox since they only had one album. I don't know if I'll review the mini album, but so this could be their only time on my channel. But unless I do like a best of '80s, like kind of avant-garde kind of dance music, this would certainly fit into a list like that. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on Colourbox or on this album, or have you ever heard this album? I'm curious to know your opinion. All right, thanks so much.